Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is your friend Blackbeard, and we are here for another Green Box Politics classic episode. Now, in this situation, the gentleman who is the subject of the video, this is actually a young man that I know. This is a young man who I was around a lot when I was in high school. This is a young man who I was able to be around him, see how his energy is, his personality, his mentality. This is a young man that I actually had a personal experience with, okay? So it was very unfortunate when I heard this situation and I saw some of the choices and decisions, that he made that got him in a pretty tough situation. So we will use this to learn from, to get some kind of enlightenment. And whatever you can gain from this, you take it and you go with it. But what I want you to get from this tape in this introduction is this. Understand, man, that the choices and decisions you make when you are in an emotional state, whether that's angry or even if you overjoyed, it can compromise you. You can be in a compromised position if you make emotional, impulsive decisions, when you don't have all the information, when you can't be patient, when you don't know how to remove yourself from a situation and evaluate it, almost like being on the outside looking in, and be able to understand that if you make certain kind of decisions, it may unfold in a way that does not benefit you in the end. You got to be very, very careful of that, especially when you're young. When you're in those middle school, high school ages, your early 20s, even when you get much older. But I'll definitely say when you're a young person in, let's say, those high school years, middle school, your early 20s, you got to be very careful on the decisions you make when it comes to the type of people you associate with, engaging in sexual activity too early, or even when you were in high school and middle school, if you didn't take academics and education serious and you didn't have any kind of plan or idea of what you want to do when you got out of school, you got to be very, very careful because you're going to be in trouble. That decade between 20 to 30 years old is where you're going to see the manifestation of all of your friends and the people that you associated with when you were in middle and high school coming up with. If they were a calm, calculated, methodical, wise person in their youth, you're going to see that manifest through the age of 20 and 30. If they were very, very aggressive, if they were quick to get angry, and if they were violent, you're going to see that manifest between their 20s and 30s. But the only problem is that once you reach adulthood and you make certain poor decisions and you get involved with the law enforcement and you start to get locked up and you're not part of the correctional facilities, your life now, you know what I'm saying, it's going to be rough, man. It's going to be very, very rough, and it's going to be hard to bounce back from it. So, before I go into reading about, this man Lloyd's situation, just understand the power of the choices you make, because you don't want it to be where one day you make a decision and then now you're in a compromised circumstance, such as either life in prison or maybe even death row. And when you made that decision, whatever emotional and mental state that you were in, you're no longer in that mind frame anymore. So you can evaluate it much different. And you're going to realize, like, man, had I done A, maybe I could have prevented myself from being in this situation. Especially when it comes to shit when you get locked up, like, these conflicts in the streets for, whatever reason, whether they be economic, whether they be gang, whatever they may come from. But, when you had these conflicts in the streets and it leads to some type of brutality and fatality, and then the police gets involved, now you in it, you know what I'm saying? And when you're going to be in prison or you're going to be wherever you are, and you're going to be looking back, you're going to be sitting in that cold cell. You're going to be sitting around all these other wild animals, these wild men who have, life sentences and, that lower vibrational demonic environment. You're going to be in that, realizing that you're never going to get out. And at that split moment in that space and time, that's when you're going to realize that, that man that you killed or whatever that you did, it wasn't really worth it. All right. Now, as far as this brother Lloyd, you know what I'm saying? I don't really know the personal details of his situation and why he did what he did, what was leading up to it. The man that he had a conflict with, what did that man do to Lloyd, and was he retaliating? I don't know the details of that. When I used to be around Lloyd, it was when I was 16 years old. And I think Lloyd may be like a year or two younger than me. So when I was 16 years old, this is when I was in like the 11th grade. And this is when I used to be around Lloyd, because during this time period, I would go and hang out, with one of my cousins, me and my brother. And we would be over with my cousin, and Lloyd would be in the neighborhood where my cousin was. So that's how I got to, know Lloyd and be around him and kind of see what his temperament was. And me personally, like, growing up, especially by that time period, because by the time I was 16, a lot of my like real, trauma from the street, especially when it came from like the gang violence stuff, by 16, I had the knowledge and enlightenment and understood, how serious and treacherous stuff could get. So I was trying to really get my shit right, get my mind right, and basically complete high school the way I needed to. So, I was playing the cut, I was behind the scenes playing the cut and just trying to do my thing and stay out the way. So whenever I was around Lloyd, it was always more so something laid back, because I wasn't trying to be around no bullshit. And I just remember, roasting in the neighborhood and stuff like that, because my cousin used to be, picking on them and stuff, making little jokes, because Lloyd was with some of the other younger guys in the neighborhood. And, a couple of times, shoot ball and little stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Just basically hanging out off of Terra Boulevard, in Clayton County. And that's what we used to do. But as far as what Lloyd had going on when I wasn't around him, I don't know. But when I heard about this situation, and when my brother told me about it, because it wasn't that long ago, he just reminded me of how when we were younger, he remembered Lloyd being quick to get angry and Lloyd having a temper. And so when he found out about this situation, he could kind of tie it to a behavior that he remembered Lloyd had back then. And what's very unfortunate is that, not only in this situation did Lloyd have this go down, but another young man that used to hang with them, believe it or not, this young man had a situation where some people came and drove like an hour and a half, 2 hours just to kill him. So it's very, very crazy, man, how in that neighborhood, there were multiple young brothers that I knew in my teenage years who ended up getting caught up in some bullshit. One of them lost his life. And now Lloyd, whatever his destiny and fate is, he could end up doing life. So remember, if you don't make the right kind of choices, you're going to end up either losing your life or you're going to end up doing life. And it's going to be up to you. You know what I'm saying? So let's read about this brother Lloyd, man, and let's see what his situation was. This is coming from AtlantaNewsFirst.com. Clayton County man charged with murder and deadly stabbing incident. Lloyd Lee Brown, 32, was charged with malice murder and several other charges, Clayton County Police Department, by Atlanta News First staff, published September the 7th, 2013 at 1:18 p.m. And as you can see, the young man on the screen is, this is Lloyd. Now, I have not seen Lloyd personally. The last time I saw Lloyd was around 2009. And I can remember it because this is when the Lakers were playing the Denver Nuggets. I believe in either the semifinals or the Western Conference Finals in 2009, when they ended up going and playing against the Orlando Magic. So that spring/summer, that was like the last time I remember seeing Lloyd and being around him. So when I saw this picture of him, once again, the last time I saw Lloyd, he probably was, let's say 14. No. He probably was maybe like 17 years old, let's say. And now I'm seeing him on this picture and he's 32 years old. So that means that whole decade of his 20s has went past. And, when I look at his face in this picture, he looks, tired. He looks older than me in this picture. And he looks like he probably could have been on drugs even. But he just looked like he'd been living a hard life. You know what I'm saying? And this was, it just was fucked up to see bro looking like this, man. You know what I'm saying? Let's continue. Jonesboro, Georgia, Atlanta News First. A man accused of stabbing another man to death and then chasing after 4 others with a knife has been charged, Clayton County Police said. Lloyd Lee Brown, 32, was charged in connection to the death of Demetrius Johnson, 44, according to police. At around 11:40 p.m. on August the 30th, officers responded to an incident at the 7900 block on Terra Boulevard in Jonesboro. According to investigators, the suspect, later identified as Brown, had allegedly thrown a piece of lumber at someone before driving away. While trying to find Brown, police said they got a call from dispatch that someone had been stabbed just down the road on North Main Street, and the suspect was reportedly, quote, attempting to stab others at the location. Investigators said they believe Brown had approached Johnson's vehicle while he was sitting in it and allegedly stabbed him multiple times through the car window. Police suggested the two had been hanging out before then. After the stabbing, investigators said Brown turned toward a nearby vehicle with 4 people inside and reportedly tried to get into the car. Police said the 4 occupants managed to get out of the vehicle and run away. That's when Brown allegedly started following them while wielding a knife. Police said Johnson was found stabbed to death on August the 31st. Brown was taken to Clayton County Jail on charges including 5 counts of aggravated assault, motor vehicle jacking, and criminal damage to property. Police said Brown is also charged with malice murder. That's where it could be the end right there, where they said that malice murder. The motive behind the stabbing remains unknown, and detectives said the investigation remains ongoing. All right. So, once again, like, this investigation is ongoing. So it's not like, Lloyd has been convicted or found guilty of this crime. But I can tell you this, the officer that arrested him had on a camera on his suit. And when they found Lloyd had blood all over him, and he was holding a knife. He was looking no different than Jason Voorhees in one of those Friday the 13th movies. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not saying that, Lloyd did this crime and he's, confirmed guilty, but it looks like the odds are stacked against him. Okay. So, this man Lloyd, it says that he stabbed somebody, this 44-year-old man named Demetrius Johnson, around 11:40 on August the 30th. So as I said, this wasn't even that long ago. And this happened off of Terra Boulevard in Jonesboro. Okay. It says that basically, Lloyd approached a vehicle where there were 4 men inside, and he reached in the vehicle and began to stab this man Demetrius multiple times. And there were 4 other people inside the vehicle, and they tried to get away, but Lloyd tried to get them too. So it really was like some real Friday the 13th, you know what I'm saying? Scream 3, Michael Myers, you know what I'm saying? Texas Chainsaw, like, that's what type of time Lloyd was on. He was on real demon time. He was on some real Clayco, Mr. All or Nothing, because that being Mr. All or Nothing is a Clayton County attribute. When I think about just a lot of people that I knew and how they went out down there, it was like all or nothing. Like when I think about KO, and he had his situation where it was either he was going to kill the police or they were going to kill him. And then I look at this situation right here with Lloyd. It was like, you're going to go and stab all these guys up. And I mean, you're not even trying to get away, So it's like he just threw his life away, basically, But it said that, this man Johnson was found stabbed to death on August the 31st. And that when they found Lloyd, he was wielding a knife, and the knife had blood all over it, and he got locked up. You know what I'm saying? So they said that, Lloyd was taken down to the Clayton County Jail. He was charged with 5 accounts of aggravated assault. So that means that it was the man Demetrius that he stabbed up, and then it was 4 other men that was sitting inside of a vehicle, and he tried to go and get them too. So these are the 5 people that they saying he assaulted. Motor vehicle jacking, criminal damage to property. But the number one charge that's probably going to get him, if they convict him of this and he's found guilty, is malice murder, When you get that malice murder charge, that means that it's premeditated and they going for the first degree. Okay? So they're talking about premeditated first degree. Malice murder. All right? And when you get that malice put on it, that means that it was, for lack of better words, it was satanic. It was brutal. It was a fatality. It was thought out. It was calculated, and it looked like that's what they got Lloyd with. You know what I'm saying? So what will you learn from Mr. Lloyd's situation? Will you learn to be patient? Will you learn conflict resolution skills? Because I know I most certainly will. This was a man that I was around. I dapped Lloyd up. We used to kick it, and sit around and talk, play basketball, joke. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is something we just used to do off Terra Boulevard. And now here he is, still on Terra Boulevard, but he's in the darkest part of Terra Boulevard. He's in the most ferocious part of Terra Boulevard, that being the Clayton County Jail. And unfortunately, what's going to happen is that Lloyd is going to sit in the Clayton County Jail for quite some time. And then eventually he'll have his court date. And if they find him guilty, he'll be sent to jail, or prison rather, for a very long time. And then now he will be sent to a Georgia correctional facility. So as I said, man, just be wise about the choices you make. Don't be impulsive. And we need to do our best not to be emotional. And we got to remove ourselves from a situation and sometimes evaluate it. When we have more of a level head, it can make the better type of choice. So stay tuned for the next one. We out.